between Nnamdi Kanu, who is agitating to separate from Nigeria peacefully, and the people who want to divide Nigeria through arms and so on and so forth, like Akida and ISWAP, which among them the government supposed to concentrate on, which among them that the government supposed to put their energy on to tackle. In this video, you are going to discover what is terribly going on in Nigeria right now as I speak to you. But before then,
the lamentation strategy by the Chief of Defense Staff on Simon Ekpa, if it's not properly handled, we may have another Nnamdi Kanu situation at hand, where if he is intercepted and he brought to Nigeria, it could trigger off more protests, more agitations, more killings in the southeast. So what we need to do is to look for ways to settle this issue politically. And when you hear people like Edwin Clark saying this, you will know that yes, they may not have gone through it the right way. And of course, nobody will condone the killing of soldiers and other military men. But the continued use of force is fueling the crisis. It's fueling it. Okay. And then someone like Nnamdi Kanu, if the court process is not quickly concluded, there will be a tendency for people to think that even the courts have been tied by the government and we're not making a head. About 2 weeks ago, the ISWAP, they started recruiting people, the Bono residents. They started promising them good life. They started promising them security better than Nigerian government. They were telling the residents of Borno State that if they succeed from Nigeria, that if they start leading this caliphate republic from the northern part of Nigeria, that they are going to give them freedom, they will give them so many things, that now there is insecurity, that they are dying, they are doing, you know, they are just trying to brainwash them. And so many of them have already been recruited into this ISWAP. And reminding you that right from time, that was 2022, we are now in 2024, almost 3 years back, the residents have been paying taxes to all these terrorists. So there is a serious issue going on. I was expecting the CDS, the defense chiefs, to give, you know, information and also give speech about what is trending, what is going on. Only thing I heard from them is something about Simon Ekpa, that they must arrest Simon Ekpa. Anyway, I think they are not interested on insecurity going on in the northern part of the country. As if that is not enough, look at what is going on. Akida-linked terrorists have crossed to northern Nigeria, settled in Kainji Lake National Park. You hear that? Akida-linked terrorists have crossed to northern Nigeria, settled in Kainji Lake National Park. You know where Kainji Lake is, right? So these people have entered deep into the nation. They have entered deep into Nigeria. Who is going to bear the cats? This is a serious problem because this Akida and ISWAP, they work together. They are in affiliate. So when ISWAP said that they must divide Nigeria this 2024, that they are going to secede out of Nigeria, these people, they really mean business. For these people to have been reported arriving in Nigeria safely after our borders are so porous, nothing is going on, no security checks, nothing whatsoever, and these people have succeeded entering into Nigeria. I don't really know what is going to happen from this moment onward. I don't really know what is going to happen from next month onward, because what we are going to be seeing, I don't just want to predict or say something, but things are not going to be going well from this moment onward. What is the purpose of coming? Thank you so much, Charles.
Just tell us more about today's trial.
Yeah, very important, you know, conclusion, at least by both parties. Nnamdi Kanu is saying that the provisions of the law actually provide for a discussion. And if you actually look at Section 17 of the Federal High Court rules, it actually allows for the court to intervene and provide, you know, a ground for some sort of reconciliation that could actually lead to an out-of-court settlement. And so if Aloy Ejimako, who is actually the lawyer for Nnamdi Kanu, is actually saying that this could be used to settle this issue, and Ademoyega, Aomolo Ademoyega, I mean, actually saying that...
Who represents the
federal government, saying that, look, I mean, you can actually do that, but my client, the federal government, only asked me to prosecute you, not to actually get into negotiations. Then you have to go to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to actually
put your demand before him and it's left for the federal government to actually consider or not. So it could actually be a way out of the crisis and the challenges that we have. Because look, Charles, if we've had Bello Bodejo, who is the president of the Mieti Allah, you know, association, Cattle Breeders Association, who was charged with terrorism and he had his terrorism charges quashed recently, why can't we look for a political solution to this? We also have Sunday Igbo, who was having the Yoruba Nation agitations. And, I mean, we could see how that issue was taken off. Now, the issue at stake now is why that of Nnamdi Kanu continues to linger. And it begs us to believe, you know, when one begins to see the attitude of the Nigerian authorities to what is happening in the Southeast region. And that's why sometimes myself and others continue to question the sort of lamentation strategy by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, when he keeps lamenting that until Simon Ekpa, for example, the factional leader of ipob, is brought into Nigeria,
right,
that
the guy
issue
in
cannot
Finland.
be, in Finland, that it can't be stopped and all of that. The issues are bigger than Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa. These are issues of injustices, grievances. I would have heard elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark say not quite long ago when he turned 97 that one of the things that should be done is to assess the grievances of the country and see how those issues can be settled through restructuring, through good governance, and for the federal government to give certain powers to the component parts of the federation so that these issues can be resolved. The issue is not necessarily Nnamdi Kanu. The issue is not necessarily Simon Ekpa, but those in authorities have failed to actually take a critical look as to what is making these agitations, secessionist groups to actually spring up, including in the incumbent president's region, over and over.
Yeah,
that's
a
there
good
needs
point.
to be a new strategy, and that strategy is more politically inclined than military inclined.
That's a
because
good point.
We've been wasting bullets, guns, ammunitions, and everything, and this issue hasn't stopped. With soldiers being killed.
Yeah, that's a good point. But specifically in Nnamdi Kanu's case, is there a point to be made that the reason they're holding him the way they are is the fact that he was granted bail? So there was no issue of prejudice or anything at that point. He was granted bail and then something happened and then he skipped bail and then went forward and in violation of all the things of that bail when he
that was
left
in
the country.
2017.
Right, and then they had to sort of spirit him back, even though the process by which he was brought back is considered illegal.
Yeah, but it's called extraordinary rendition when the government engages in illegality to actually get someone who's
I'm wondering
wanted.
whether that is a consideration for why their backs seem to have got very stiff over the issue right now.
Yeah, I understand how bitter the Nigerian state is. And of course, there's no government that will stay aloof and watch what's happening in the southeast of the country, where you see on specific days, you have sit at home, you know, going on with a whole region losing, you know, so much to, you know, these separatist groups. I mean, there's no government that will watch, you know, these people wanting to take over a region. But for how long are we going to continue this? And if we've been able to make a success out of the fight against insurgency in the northeast with the Boko Haram, it's been able to go down, and we're able to do this de-radicalization policy by the defense headquarters, why can't we apply same in the southeast of the country? So there are so many things that the Nigerian government, you know, is not really telling us about the southeast, because we've come to a conclusion at some point that, yes, we need to restructure our constitution. We need to do certain things to assuage the feelings of people in different parts of the country. But people are beginning to ask questions that if separatist leaders in the southwest have been granted bail, they've been left off the hook, and that of the north, they've been left off the hook, what is happening?
Well, they're not actually left off the hook.
Yeah, but well, they said that they had undergone lots of, you know, trials in the courts and all of that. Some of them, some of the leaders got killed, especially in the northeast. But we are saying that for this, there seems to be some sort of delay on this Nnamdi Kanu's issue. And while we are saying that the law should take its course if it's actually wrong, but nonetheless, there seems to be a delay over this particular issue. Now, what happened in 2017 is actually the reason why we're here. And that's why I said the lamentation strategy by the Chief of Defense Staff on Simon Ekpa, if it's not properly handled, we may have another Nnamdi Kanu situation at hand, where if he is intercepted and he brought to Nigeria, it could trigger off more protests, more agitations, more killings in the Southeast. So what we need to do is to look for ways to settle this issue politically. And when you hear people like Edwin Clark saying this, you will know that, yes, they may not have gone through it the right way. And of course, nobody will condone the killing of soldiers and other military men. But the continued use of force
is fueling the crisis.
It's fueling it.
Okay.
And then
Let me
someone like
Nnamdi
Kanu, if the court process is not quickly concluded, there will be a tendency for people to think that even the courts have been tied by the government, and
so
we're not
very
making
quickly,
a headway.
because we're running out of time. How much support and sympathy does Mr. Kanu have in Nigeria, insofar as it is possible to gauge that?
Well, he continues to enjoy a lot of sympathy from people, and that's why you see that the monies continue to come in both within Nigeria and outside, because of that sympathy that the Southeast continues to face political marginalization over the years. The agitation has always been that why have we failed to have a president of Southeast extraction or a vice president of Southeast extraction since after Alex Ekweme in the Second Republic? Could this possibly help resolve the issue if we're able to, as a nation, see how we can devolve powers in such a way that, you know, we could reduce this agitation? And then could it be that the call for a new state in the Southeast, for example, if it's given, could help reduce some of these, you know, separatist agitations? We must do something to make the Southeast to look like it's not just being seen to be part of Nigeria, but it is actually part of Nigeria. And that's why we're saying that if of recent we could have this issue, terrorism charges slammed against the president of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Bello Bodejo, and they were removed. They were discharged. The federal government removed these same charges from him. Why can't it apply so that this issue in the Northeast, in the Southeast, will be quelled and Nigeria will focus more on development?
So your assessment at the moment is that in the face of lots of calls from prominent Nigerians, you mentioned Edwin Clark amongst them, for Mr. Kanu's release, that there is no sense that the government of President Tinubu is listening to those calls at all.
Yes, and that's why we want him to actually fulfill his campaign promises, because he said he was going to restructure the country. We're going to see how we'll get the country back together and have a conversation. Because if we don't do this, solve these political problems that have been there with us over time, that are built on injustices, the next president will come and inherit them, and it will be a problem. Look, there's nobody that supports what ipob and ESN are doing, but they are not the problems. They are symptoms of the problem. The real problems are political issues that have not been settled since the 1967 to 1970 war. And yes, the Southeast leaders too need to come into this, because they should understand that power is not given. You have to work for it. So there must be a decision by the Southeast leaders to work with people like Nnamdi Kanu and see how they can work with President Tinubu. There's nothing that dialogue cannot solve. And President Tinubu should actually prepare a template that could make this kind of conversation to be easy, not like what former President Buhari had done. Don't forget, a former Minister of Aviation who is dead now, Amechi, had led a delegation of Igbo leaders to beg for Nnamdi Kanu's release. But what the former President Buhari said...
Now you talk about Bonaya Ono.
No. Amechi Mbazulike, the very first Minister of Aviation.
Okay, when you said Amechi, it's got a bit confusing.
Yeah. So what former President Buhari then has said is that justice should take its course. But people are beginning to say that why is Nnamdi Kanu's own case taking too long for the justice system to go on? So this is a golden opportunity. If Nnamdi Kanu himself is seeking for reconciliation, the federal government should take a second look at it. Nobody actually supports what Nnamdi Kanu's supporters are doing and what he himself may have done. But if there could be a win-win whereby, even if it's shorter sentencing, given to him to resolve these issues, it will be better. Because the Southeast is bleeding, and the soldiers and policemen being sent there are being killed.
Okay.
And then citizens too are being killed, including those people who are the separatist leaders and all of that. We can actually solve this bloodshed issue and, you know, within 6 months actually resolve the issues.
Right. Okay.
And that's why the judge was very smart. Justice Binta Nyako said, we as a court do not have a solution to this. This is more in the realm of politics. Go and speak with the Attorney General of the Federation and you see how we can take it up from there.
Okay. On that note, Sumner, thank you very much indeed. Sumner Sambo is the Rise political editor and director.